Hey, my name's Tony, and I am glad you're here to check out this video. I wanted to talk a little bit about this book I wrote recently called Boondock Church. Some of you may know that early January I released a project I've been working on for a while. Actually, it got its start in 2011, 2012. I was talking with a friend of mine here in town. His name is Russell Eggleston, and we were talking about we both enjoyed writing. And so he had come up with the idea of a 30-day blog challenge, and I hadn't done any blogging at that point. But I thought it sounded like a lot of fun. So we both started our own websites. I started tonywarner.com, and we would post every single day for 30 days to this blog site. So every single day I blogged, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. It was probably one of the things that just kind of woke in me the desire to do more writing. So when you're doing something steady like that over the long haul, you really got to find ways to make it easier. So it's kind of like preaching. If you're preaching every Sunday of the year, which I preach a lot of Sundays out of the year, then it's nice to do series in your preaching so that you kind of know where you're going. It makes it easier in the preparation and stuff. So I came up with a few series ideas in that 30-day blog challenge, and one of them was things a pastor shouldn't say. And it was just fun. And actually, as I posted them week by week by week, one of them was preaching is overrated. And preachers probably shouldn't say that because so much of what we do is connected to the preaching on a Sunday. But it generated a lot of good feedback and seemed to be something people liked reading. So I had the idea coming out of that 30 days to write a book called Things That Pastors Shouldn't Say. So I actually started working on a manuscript. Probably pretty slow going in those early first couple of years, and it was more just a bunch of blogs that I had combined together. But I do remember in about 2014 or 15 giving a manuscript to my dad. My mom and dad, Gordon and Linda Warner, pastor a small town church in Dawson Creek. It's 45 minutes south of us. And like us, north of almost everywhere, we're in northern Canada. And I gave this just a pile of papers, not ordered, not written very well, and but everything I did write, I felt like I needed to write with no filter, so it was pretty raw and very unabridged. So I gave this to Dad, and I just said, Dad, have a look through it. I'd really like your perspective on some of the stuff, and he knew I was working on this book idea, so I dropped it off, and then 2 months later we were there. Our whole family was there. So we have 4 adult children. 2 of them are still in town. 2 of them are away at school. And one of them is married here. Her husband's on our staff team. They have 3 kids. Pretty exciting. And so all of us were back at Grandma and Grandpa's house. And I saw this manuscript sitting on Dad's coffee table right beside his chair. And I knew that meant he had probably had a look through it. But nothing was said for probably 30 minutes. And we're all there making small talk. And Mom's in the kitchen. And finally I said, nervous as all get out, I'm like, Dad, did you get a chance to look through or read through? Like I said, there was about 150 pages. It was a decent amount of reading, and he gets this little smirk on his face, which made me think, I got a little bit nervous at that point. But he said, this is what he said. He said, Tony, I wish I would have read this 40 years ago. And I had my jaw drop. Because my dad is a small town pastor, somebody I really look up to. He's a Jedi master when it comes to pastoring, and especially I think when it comes to pastoring in the small town boondock environment. So that he would say that was a shocker. And I think the first time that I actually thought, maybe there is something here. Maybe there is something in this that needs to be said. And then the second thing he said was, and your church is going to kick you out, which I thought was like, really? And I talked with an edge. I will admit that I brought the redneck tone and language right into the actual manuscript. Now we never get into, I always say, I just talk like a farmer. And that was kind of intentional because one of the subtexts in the book is that you really need to speak the language of the culture. So, anyways, and I'm like, Dad, and you don't know my church. I remember when we first came to Evangel, and this is a Boondock Church. It is a Boondock Church, and they said, we love it when you're hard hitting, when you're direct. Take the kid gloves off, tell us like it is. So I knew that they would actually really enjoy the book. And the feedback I've gotten so far from our own people, in our church, Evangel, has been really, really exciting. So proof positive. Just the same, I took that 150 pages from that point and really, I think, probably began to realize this actually has potential. And it became more than things that pastors shouldn't say. It wasn't just a bunch of offensive things that pastors shouldn't say. It actually became really centered around the rural context and the small town. So I've been pastoring for almost 30 years, Sarah and I together. And one of the things I've noted over the years, I'm a small town guy right from day one. And I've noted over the years, especially as a pastor, that it seems like everything that's written as far as resources to church world, pastors that want to grow their church and want to be successful in their context, it's almost all coming. All the conferences and the authors and the speakers are all coming out of the city and often out of the mega church context, which quite frankly makes complete sense to me because those guys, the Andy Stanleys of the world, man, they're amazing communicators, they're amazing authors, so that makes sense. But still, there's this gaping hole. There's not a whole lot around the small town church, and I really do think there's a very unique culture in the small town that sometimes gets missed, like speaking the language of the small town. And so I started to change the whole sort of idea of where I was going with this first book, and it was, instead of becoming things that pastors shouldn't say, it was basically small town church, massive potential, which then morphed eventually into Boondock Church with the subtitle Small Town, Massive Potential. And I talk more about that in the book. So basically the book is broken into two parts. The first part, it's 332 pages. The first part is about the small town, and it's about appreciating especially if you are in Fort St. John and you're in the small town context, maybe somewhere else in Canada, you're in the small town. I think this first part of the book is beneficial to you even if you're not a part of a church, or maybe you're not in a leadership role in your small town church, because it's going to really help you grow an appreciation of the context where you live. I'm not in Fort St. John because I'm stuck here. I'm not in Fort St. John because I couldn't go somewhere else if I wanted to. I'm here because I want to be here. Sarah and I have been here for 16 plus years, and we look forward to making this our home for the rest of our lives. We love this place. We love everything about it. And so I really opened that up in that first book, and why we love the small town, and why if you find yourself in a small town, particularly in a small town church, you may have just plunked down in the heart of the nation and in one of the most amazing places to be successful in life, and especially on our journey through this book in the small town church context. A lot of people don't know that in Canada, 7 million people live in towns under 1,000 in population. And so this is a massive, massive, massive field. And I wanted to kind of speak to that. So the first part is small towns, and then the second part is called small town churches. This is not a book about small churches. That's important to say. And I know there's some resources out there, and some people picked up the charge of talking about the beauty of small and belonging and all that, and that's good and that's fine. But that's not what this book is about. It's not about having a small church and all the dynamics of that. It's about having an impacting church, and even a growing church, even a large church in a small town. I actually think that you have, as if you're in a small town and you're pastoring in a small town church, you actually have more potential to grow a significant movement in the small town than you would ever imagine. And you actually have opportunities that you would never find in a city, in the small town. And so that second part of the book is just doing everything I can to kind of hack the system and help you, and help us as a church grow, be competitive, and begin to see great impact. So that's how it looks, and I'll be throwing more videos up here. I'll crack open a few chapters from now and then and talk about some of the issues that I kind of bring up in small town or in Boondock Church. If you haven't had a chance to buy it and you're interested in doing that, you can go to Amazon.ca. Super easiest way to do it. If you have an Amazon Prime account, it's free shipping. It's just a great way to pick up the book. And then if you're in Fort St. John and you want a copy of it, then you get a hold of me, because I have about 20 copies left. It's not a lot, but I've got about 20 copies left that you can just pick up off me, and that would be fine. I'll even sign it for you. So hope you enjoyed that, and I'm looking forward to the journey ahead. With that, I will sign out. So we'll see you next time.